Hello, welcome to my channel. You're watching What Helen Reads and I'm Helen, and today I've got another book haul for you. So it doesn't seem 5 minutes since I last did a book haul, but it was actually at the end of January after my birthday when I treated myself to lots of lovely books. Since then, I've also acquired a few more. I think I've got about 28 to share with you today, 13 of which I think are physical books, and the rest are either ebooks or audiobooks that I've purchased. So without further ado, let me share with you the physical books that I've managed to get hold of. So the first two I'll cover really quickly. The first one is Hills of Shivers and Shadows by Godwin. Now this is a dark romance. It is basically revolves around Frankie, who is kidnapped by a man called Neva and taken to the very far north of Alaska and held captive there along with his 3 sons, Wolfson, Kodiak and Leonid. And from there we start to figure out who Neva is, why he's taken Frankie, who his sons are, what the intentions are, and also try and figure out a way that Frankie is going to escape. This is absolutely fantastic, a 5-star read, would highly recommend. And if you want to know more, I did a reading vlog of this one back in March I think it was, and I'll put a link to that in the description box down below if you're interested in watching that video if you haven't yet. And then of course book 2 in the Frozen Fate trilogy came out, and I had to snap this up as well, which is Cage of Ice and Echoes, also by Godwin. And then this follows 3 of the characters from book 1 as they, you know, come to terms with what's going on, figure out more information and try and find a way to escape. This one is fraught with peril. Characters are put through quite a lot. They have to persevere through some very harsh and serious conditions, and I absolutely love this one. Another 5-star read, a masterpiece from Godwin, totally gut-wrenching and had me on the edge of my seat. My heart was literally in my mouth as I was just willing these characters to keep going, to persevere through against all of the odds, and to make their way to safety. But of course this ends as well on another cliffhanger, and we're not going to get book 3 until later in the year, but I will absolutely be waiting with bated breath to read the 3rd book. Now if you want to know more about this, I've literally just done a deep dive of this one, which I posted just a few days ago. So again, I'll leave a link to that video in the description box down below, so you can go and check that out as well if you want to know more, but highly recommend. Then I couldn't help myself when I saw that S.J. Tilly had got some limited edition copies of her Alliance series. I had to basically purchase them despite having the original copies already on my shelves. But I was like, no, I absolutely have to have them. I want them with the men on the cover, which is the originals, but I also had to absolutely have these limited editions, and they're absolutely stunning. So the first one in this series is Nero. These are all mafia romances. You can just tell, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. It's got some really nice embossing on the front there as well, and these are all signed by the author as well inside. Inside the books are also stunning with some really nice chapter sections as well. And yeah, absolutely love this one. So this one follows Nero and Peyton. Nero is kind of our head of the Alliance, and one day he's kind of trying to get away from the police, and he slips into her apartment while Peyton is sitting down to watch The Wizard of Oz with some popcorn, and Nero frightens the life out of her, but she's really scared, but she's also very still. And Nero sits down, watches the movie with her, eats some hot popcorn, and through this becomes absolutely fascinated with Peyton, and then kind of starts stalking her a little bit, and then basically going all out to make her his. And this series is filled with crazy, you know, obsessed, domineering mafia heroes, and I'm absolutely here for it. Absolutely loved it, and they've just got better and better from here. So then book 2 is then King, and you can see just again how gorgeous the front pages here, all embossed and signed again by the author. So in this one we're following King and Savannah, and what we've come to know is that King and Nero are best friends. King is a very, very wealthy man. He came from a very wealthy family, but he's also secretly co-leader of this alliance. At the end of book 1 he kind of has to reveal who he is, kind of come out of the woodwork, if you like, so that now all their enemies know who he is as well, because before he was kind of keeping his part in the alliance a secret for safety reasons. But at the end of book 1 he needs to go to Nero and Peyton's sort of rescue, if you like, and therefore kind of reveals his hand. Now at the start of book 2 King happens to go to dinner with his sister to visit a friend who's recently been injured, just had an operation, and who should also turn up at this this friend's house, but Savannah, the heroine in this one, and she has got a date with her for the evening, but the date turns out to be King's sister's husband, and so there they figure out that the husband has actually been cheating on King's sister, and King does not take too kindly to this. So when King goes to confront the ex-husband and you know, eliminate him from the situation, Savannah then is also going back to this guy's apartment to get her car keys so she can get herself home, and kind of stumbles in on King doing what he's doing, and then tries to run away, and King goes after her and he's not quite sure what to do with her, so he kind of kidnaps her, takes her back to his house, and then decides he's going to marry Savannah so that she can't go to the authorities and dob him in basically, and their relationship goes from there. So again, King is another over the top kind of hero, absolutely fantastic. The next in this series is Dom, and this one is absolutely my favourite of the series. I love Dom. He is so outrageous but also so amazing, and he does some absolutely unforgivable things that you would not put up with in real life, but just works in this book, and I absolutely loved every crazy moment of it. So in this one, Dom, he is actually head of the Chicago Mafia, and he wants to make an alliance with the alliance. He wants to become part of the alliance, but kind of King and Nero have kind of been fobbing him off, and he's not been making much headway. Now the heroine in this one is Val, and she actually happens to be King's half sister, so a different sister from the sister whose husband cheated on her in book 2, but King's got this half sister, and so Dom decides that he is going to you know, step into Val's path, and seduce her, then convince her to marry him, so that then he'll be married to King's stepsister, half-sister, and by default will marry into the alliance. The thing is, Val is absolutely a lovely person, and she also lacks quite a lot of confidence, and so when this amazing man Dom takes an interest in her and she believes that he's genuinely in love with her and then marries him, she is absolutely head over heels in love and so excited and so happy, and then the bubble is completely burst when she figures out that he was just kind of like deceiving her the whole time, and really it was just to join the alliance, and she's really, really hurt by this. But by this time Dom has actually decided, yes, that's the original intention of why he's going to be with Val, but actually he has been falling in love with Val himself, and then goes to outrageous lengths to make sure that she knows that she belongs to him and she's not going to escape. Like I say, absolutely love this one. And then the final one in this series is Hans, also signed by S.J. Tilley. Also has some amazing sections for the chapters. Also an absolutely beautiful embossed design here. And in this one we're following Hans, who we've seen in the other books. He was a very intriguing character in the other books because he's some form of assassin. At first he appears to be the enemy of the alliance, but actually we figure out that he's a good guy, and not somebody that they need to go to war with. And then the heroine in this one is Cassie. Now Hans very much keeps to himself. His sister was actually kidnapped when she was a young woman and sold into kind of sex slavery, sex trafficking, and unfortunately passed away. And so Hans has dedicated his whole life to seeking revenge and taking down these kind of like, you know, these kidnapping rings. And Cassie just happens to be the girl next door, so she is his neighbour. She moves into his street, takes an instant shine to Hans, and then Hans does everything he can to avoid her because he doesn't want to get attached. But Cassie wants to be a very good neighbour, and she starts baking him things and leaving them on his doorstep, and he then becomes obsessed with eating the things that she's baked and returning the kind of like the Tupperware, you know, the container that she's put them in. And so they kind of have this game where she bakes things, leaves them on the doorstep, he eats them, returns the container, but they don't really see each other until eventually one day they do, and things go from there, and Hans becomes obsessed with her, you know, things go from there. But again, another over-the-top, very possessive alpha hero, and a great ending to a great series. So like I said, I couldn't help myself. Yes, I already own these books, but I had to get the special editions as well, and so I did. Right, so the next one is Smokeshow by Abbi Glines. Now I haven't read this one, but I won this book in an author giveaway. So I am going to Rare 24 Edinburgh later this year, so I'm in the Facebook group for that, and Abbi Glines is one of the attending authors, and then she ran a competition in the Facebook group to give away three of her books. And I was very lucky to win one, and I chose this one, which is book 1 in this particular series. Now I understand she writes mafia romances, but mafia romances that are set in the South, so these are sort of cowboy mafia men, and Smokeshow is book 1 in the series, like I said, so I thought it was a pretty good place to start. It's a fairly short book at just 250 odd pages, and so I'm looking forward to reading this one, and it also was signed by Abbi and sent to me as well. So the blurb on this one says, "It's a fragile thing, the whispers of truth that you hope are lies. Hughes Farm was the largest racing horse establishment in the South. The family that owned it were known to be wealthy, powerful, arrogant and terrifying. My first encounter with them didn't prepare me for all that was to come. I don't think anything truly could have. Growing up with only my father and brother hadn't been easy, but we'd had each other. Losing them was the hardest thing I'd ever faced. It had made the times we went without food, electricity or even shelter seem insignificant in comparison. It was when a woman, claiming to have been my mother's best friend, arrived to take me home with her that questions begin to surface. My father had rarely spoken of my mother. She died when I was a toddler. Having no other option, I trust this stranger and I'm thrown into a world of mansions, racing horses, extravagance and him. It's true that there is a thin line between love and hate, but there is an even thinner line between truth and lies." So I'm really excited the fact that I won this, but also to give this author a try. Then I've got Even If It Hurts by Sam Mariano. This is book 1 in the Coastal Elite series. I treated myself to this one a couple of months ago because it was a 5-star read. One of my favourites, I think from February, I think it must have been, and so I want to start collecting all of the books in this particular series. So this one follows Dare and Aubrey. Dare is a complete and utter psychopath. Aubrey is just a poor girl that finds herself in his path, and he sets out to make her life a misery, but then finds that being with her is just too interesting, and he decides that he's gonna make her his. And the thing is, he's also got a psycho girlfriend who is sort of meddling, making life difficult. This book is like dark romance. It also takes place in high school, so this is a high school kind of romance. I don't even want to know if it's a romance, but essentially Aubrey does fall in love with Dare, and by the end of this book they kind of have a HEA. However, I've said this loads of times before, this was a 5-star read for me. It was brilliantly dark. Sam Mariano's writing is absolutely fantastic. Loved every moment of this book. However, I didn't really like Dare, the hero, at all. He's not going to go up there as a book boyfriend anytime soon. And although I normally like really obsessive, possessive heroes, I don't even mind a psychopath. What I felt with this couple was that while Aubrey is in love with Dare, happy to be with him, I also got the sense very much that if she changed her mind and wanted to leave, there was no way she was ever going to escape from Dare's clutches, and he would do anything, literally anything, to get what he wants. He's very, very manipulative, very, very controlling, and so I like I say, I didn't really feel comfortable with how this HEA ended up, if you like, because I didn't truly feel it was a HEA, because Aubrey's never going to get away even if she wanted to. But still, doesn't take away from how brilliant this book is, and I've really enjoyed the other books in this series as well. Right, then the next one is Malevolent by Lainey Delaroque. This was a arc that was sent to me by the author. It was my very first sort of PR box, if you like, from an author who sent me this book and some goodies, and she also signed it in here as well. So I was really, really excited to get this one. Again, it was an author I'd never read before, but I did read it last month. And it is now out and available for you to purchase. It's book 1 in what I believe is going to be a 4-part series, so this does end on a cliffhanger. It's a polyamorous romance, however there's not a lot of romance in this first one. It's very much scene setting, building the background and the story as we kind of go on to the other books. So I will warn you there that this isn't kind of a fully fledged romance in and of itself. It's very much the starter of a series that will end up being a polyamorous relationship between 3 men and our main character, who is Jade. Now this is very much set up as a mystery. Jade is coming back to sort of Onyx Grove to seek revenge for something that happened, but it's very, very sort of mysterious. The author gives us information in pieces. We have to kind of put the pieces together, try and figure it all out. Who is who's doing what's gone down, who's a goodie, who's a baddie, who can we trust? We don't really even know, and lots of things going on with these characters. So like I said, this was definitely a starter for 10. We don't get all our answers, and we're still very much you know, laying the groundwork for the rest of the series, but I did enjoy this read and will go on to read more in the series when they come out. Then I've got The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I absolutely love this one. Another 5-star read. The main character in this one is Garrett Graham. He is absolutely a book boyfriend. Fell massively in love with this character. It's an ice hockey romance, so he is a ice hockey player. He is very sort of like a complex character with a great sort of like backstory, if you like, but also such a great guy. And basically this is called The Deal because he makes a deal with our heroine, Hannah Wells, who they end up calling Wellsy. She kind of gets adopted by the whole team, if you like, because Garrett needs a tutor so that he can pass a class and stay in the ice hockey team, and Hannah needs some coaching because she fancies a football player, but she kind of needs to raise her popularity, and by going out with Garrett then everyone will take notice of her and she'll raise her popularity, and this football guy will be interested in her, but also she needs sort of a little bit of help in the bedroom. So this is kind of a teaching sort of book as well. But of course the relationship that Garrett and Hannah have together is absolutely brilliant. I love how they interact with each other. The banter in here is fantastic. It is very, very sexy. Lots of chemistry between this couple, and I just love how it all played out. Finding out about their backstories, what happened to them, and the support they give each other is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, like I say, thoroughly enjoyed this one. 5-star read. At the same time, I also picked up The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer, which is another ice hockey romance, but where the deal is set in university, in fact a university called Briar U. It's part of the off-campus series. This one is kind of part of a professional ice hockey team in Vancouver, and our hero in this one, Rory, plays ice hockey for a professional team, the Vancouver Storm. And then Hazel is the main female character in this one, and she is kind of a physiotherapist who works for the team, and both Hazel and Rory actually knew each other in high school. They spent some time together. Rory's always had a crush on Hazel, and Hazel had a boyfriend who she was with for quite some time, followed him to college, but he didn't treat her well at all, and eventually they split up, and so Hazel's confidence has been completely knocked. And when this ex-boyfriend turns up to play on the same professional hockey team as Rory, Rory realises that Hazel kind of needs a bit of protection because the ex-boyfriend's going to make her life difficult and uncomfortable, a little bit awkward if she has to do some physiotherapy on him. And so Rory decides that basically they're going to fake date so that he can protect her from the ex-boyfriend. And again, this is another example of a fantastic hero who really takes care of the heroine, but the banter between them is fantastic, and the chemistry between them is off the charts as well. So I just was smiling throughout this one. Would highly recommend, another 5-star read. Then I've got the Nephilim's Fellowship, which is book 4 in the War of the Nephilim series by Eliza Hampstead. This was sent to me by the author as a thank you for being her beta reader. And I've got all the other books in this series as well. Now this is a paranormal sort of fantasy romance series. It features sort of the Nephilim, who are half angel, half man, and they are kind of the protectors. So think shadow hunters, they're kind of the protectors who, you know, fight demons and things like that. Also in this world there are sort of witches and vampires and fae. Now as we've gone through the series in books 1 and 2 and 3, they all featured different couples who got their HEA, and there were all different mixtures of, so we've now kind of got a fellowship, if you like, a group of people who are a combination of these Nephilim, but also vampires and witches as well. And by the time we get to this book, they have to go on a journey into hell to confront a couple of demons and save the world, basically. And so in this book, it doesn't particularly focus on one couple, but we see all of the couples as they basically journey into hell. And I thought it was a really great ending to what has been a very enjoyable series to read. And then the last physical book I've got to share with you is this one. It's Silent Lies by Neva Altaj. I think this is book like 7 or something in the Perfectly Imperfect series. I could be wrong. Oh, it's book 8. So this is book 8 in the Perfectly Imperfect series. I actually got this from Jen from the Book Refuge. I subscribe to her quarterly book boxes, one of her patrons. There's a few very lucky people who get a quarterly book box from her. And this was my pick for the first quarter. So this came from Jen, and she's also tabbed it with some annotations in here as well, with some kind of comments. This was a really fun read as well. So this whole series is a mafia series. In this one we're following Drago. He is a Serbian mafia hero, and Sienna. And Sienna has kind of been sent by the Italian mafia to spy on Drago, become his wife, but spy and report back. And Draco finds out and he's not too happy, but he also doesn't care because he actually falls in love with Sienna and really likes her. But again, I loved this couple. Drago played it brilliantly, where he kind of knew what was going on, but he didn't reveal to Sienna what was going on, made her squirm a little bit. But also Sienna's character was so bubbly and amazing, and she was very flamboyant with her clothing, wore lots of bright colours, lots of like tassels and glitter and all of that good stuff. And she was just a very sort of outgoing, bubbly character, at least on the outside. And Drago absolutely loves that about her. Where before maybe people have said, oh, you should dress a little bit more appropriately, he absolutely just loves everything about her, and their romance is super sweet. This was my favourite of the series until I've read the most recent one, which is book 9, which was called Darkest Sins, which is now my new favourite. But it seems that every time Neva Altaj writes another mafia romance in this series, it becomes a new favourite of mine. So would absolutely recommend the whole series for this one. Okay, so that's all the physical books that I have got to share with you, but I've also got some ebooks that I purchased, and so I wanted to count those because the majority of the books I read are I download using Kindle Unlimited, which I absolutely love, but obviously some books aren't available on Kindle Unlimited, or they have been so good that I've kind of bought them or had the opportunity to get them for good value, if you like, as an ebook. And then so the first one that I want to talk about is the Tormentor Mine series by Anna Zaires. So this one was recommended to me. I really wanted to read it, and it's, like I say, it's a 4-book series, but it's following the same couple, Peter and Sarah. Now this is another dark romance, and it starts pretty horrifically, where Peter had a wife and a son. They were killed in an attack on a village by the US government, and Peter is absolutely outraged, full of anger, devastated, but also seeking revenge. And Peter has absolutely full capability of getting the revenge on the people who did this, because as a boy he was raised in kind of a Russian sort of camp for boys. It was not strictly a prison, but it wasn't a particularly nice place. Let's say it was a work camp, and he was forced to do some pretty horrible things, and also he had to learn how to defend himself, keep himself alive, and eventually he's picked up by the Russian government, trained as kind of as an assassin, and his sort of key job for them is to track down terrorists and torture them into revealing information for the Russian government. Now, at the point in time when his wife and son are killed, he then kind of goes rogue and devotes the rest of his life to seeking revenge, and he happens to have a list of people that are responsible for the attack on this village, and he's working his way down one by one. And that's when we meet our heroine in this story, is Sarah, because she is married to who she thinks is a journalist, but actually is again an undercover agent for the CIA, and he's one of the people on Peter's list. Now, unfortunately, her husband had a car accident about 18 months prior, and he's now on life support, so he, you know, he's very close to death anyway, but he is being kind of protected by security, because they know again, by this time the government have pretty much worked out Peter's on the way, and so they've given him security in the hospital, even though he, like I say, he's on life support in a coma. And she thinks it's because he was a journalist and that he was investigating some bad mafia people, and that's why he needs protection, but really he needs protection from Peter. Peter doesn't know where he is, so he decides to basically go to Sarah's house and then torture her for information about where her husband is. And when she finally gives in and gives him the information, he goes away and strikes another person off his list, essentially. And Sarah is pretty traumatized by this whole activity. However, Peter has become obsessed with Sarah in the meantime, starts to follow her, figure out what she's doing, and Sarah becomes paranoid that someone is following her and watching her. And of course, it's only paranoia if it's not true, and it is true. And eventually Peter comes back for Sarah, tries to integrate himself into her life, and when the FBI cotton onto the fact that he's there, he then takes the drastic step to kidnap Sarah and take her to a safe house in Japan. And as this series goes on, basically over the course of 4 books, Sarah and Peter kind of develop a relationship. Peter is very much driving this. He's adamant that Sarah belongs to him and she has no choice. And Sarah, you know, is very physically attracted to him, does care about him, but is constantly battling her feelings of guilt. Also that she shouldn't like a man like him after what he did with her husband, and the fact that he tortured her, and so on and so forth. And it goes backwards and forwards. But lots of things happen in this one. It's very, very dramatic. And then by the time we get to book 4, it all comes to a bit of a head, shall we say. So like I say, I bought all 4 books in the Tormentor Mind series and thoroughly enjoyed that series. Now, to go along with that, as I was reading the Tormentor Mind series, it did actually say that it was best enjoyed if I read the Twist Me series. So I also purchased all 3 books in the Twist Me trilogy by Anna Zaires, and this one is following Nora and Julian. Now, Julian is part of Peter's world. He is, you know, a very dark hero. I think he is, I can't remember now, but I'm pretty sure he's from Colombia, and he is sort of like an arms dealer. He's extremely wealthy, has this special compound in Colombia, and one day he bumps into a lady called Nora, a young girl really, she's only 18, called Nora. He decides that she belongs to him, and he kidnaps her, takes her to a private island where he basically keeps her there for a long time, and trains her to basically be his sex slave. But in the course of this, they kind of fall in love with each other. Now, he is also crazy, obsessed, a little bit unhinged, but Nora really, really cares about him. And you know, as we go through this trilogy, again, at first it's a captive at first it's like a captive sort of romance with BDSM elements. He is particularly demanding in the bedroom, but as we go through, they end up having to leave this island where they're on. He has to kind of take her home to sort some things out, and then eventually comes back into her life, forces her to marry him, and then takes her back to his home in Colombia, his fortress in Colombia. So I didn't enjoy that trilogy as much as I enjoyed the Tormentor series, but still a really enjoyable read. And I was completely, while I was reading them, I was completely sucked into the Anna Zaires rabbit hole, and was very, very happy to keep reading. So then another ebook I picked up was Denial by Marr, and this one is an erotic romance. It's only a novella, but it was recommended by Jen from the Book Refuge. I thought it was really, really intriguing. It was about a married couple who had been married for quite some time, but they were in a dom-sub relationship where the wife was actually the dom, and the husband really, really wanted to be caged. And at first his wife was sort of resistant, but then agreed. And while they'd done it previously, on this particular occasion, he didn't want to know what the time limit was going to be or how long he would be caged for, so that he could give complete control to her. And I just thought it was a really interesting take, not only on you know, it was a married couple, not a sort of a fresh couple if you like, but also just exploring this sort of kink, this dynamic between this couple, and kind of what kind of she put him through and what he was prepared to do in order to please his dominant wife. It was a fun, quick read, and would definitely recommend. Then I picked up When the Earl Met His Match, because this was on my TBR, which I picked out from a jar for the month of April. I'm literally just started it, so I haven't finished this one, but it's an historical romance by Stacey Reid. Now, I've not had the best of success with historical romances. After all the dark romances I read and the mafia romances I read, they're a little bit tame, and also sometimes the language in them is a bit too frilly for me. However, I keep going back and giving them a try, because I think some of them, you know, I have enjoyed some of them, and I'm really hoping for a really, you know, hard hitter. And this one was a favourite of Jen from the Book Refuge from last year, and I thought I would give this one a try. So the blurb on this says, when Hugh Winthrop, the future Earl of Albury, decides to advertise for a wife in the London paper, he never expected an anonymous response from a woman who matches him wit for wit. Their back and forth letters on the true nature of love, something they disagree on wholeheartedly, leave him shocked and intrigued. But then the woman he's been corresponding with shows up on his doorstep, enticingly beautiful and offering a marriage of convenience in exchange for his protection. And then another one I bought was Vlad by Dukey and Kate Webster, and this is a mafia romance. The reason I picked this one up, because again, I'm going to Rare 24 in Edinburgh later in the year, and I wanted to read a few more authors who are attending that particular one. Dukey's attending. She's based in the UK, and so I thought I'd give her mafia romance a try. It's a shorter read at 250 pages, so I'm hoping to be able to get through it pretty quickly. And this one looks like it's a mafia romance where Vlad, our main hero, needs to get married, and he's supposed to marry the eldest Volkov sister, but he's really got his eyes on the younger sister, and so because he's a mafia man, he's going to do exactly what he wants, and you know, take what he wants as well. So I'm hoping that this will be good, and also it's co-written by Kate Webster, you know, so I'm expecting some really good things. So there are all the ebooks I've got to share with you, and I've just got a few audio books left that I want to talk about. I've already spoken about one of these books, and that's The Deal by Elle Kennedy. So when I first read this one, I read it as an audiobook. I listened to it as an audiobook, should I say, and that's how I kind of digested that book, and I loved it so much that I bought the physical copy. And it was narrated brilliantly by Christian Fox and Lorelei Avalon. I liked it so much that I actually then went on and purchased The Mistake, which is book 2 in the Off-Campus series and follows The Deal, and I'm literally just started to listen to that one as well. I tend to only listen to audiobooks when I am going on trips, I'm driving in the car. I've not had much opportunity to listen recently, but today I did have an extended drive and therefore started this one. I'm hoping to finish it soon, but it's The Mistake, like I say, by Elle Kennedy, and this one is narrated by Lorelei Avalon and Lee Samuels, and so far I'm really enjoying it. But it's nice hockey romance set in college. And then on the theme of sports romances, I also picked up the Red Zone Rivals box set, which is by Candy Steiner. The box set includes all 4 books in the Red Zone Rivals series, basically it's in a box set where you can buy it with 1 credit on Amazon, which is what I did, but it contains all 4 books. Fair Catch, Blindside, Quarterback Sneak and Hail Mary. I love the whole series. My favourite is still Blindside, which is a fake dating football romance, and would highly recommend, but I thought the whole series was really, really good. And it's narrated by a variety, you know, each book is narrated by someone different, but a variety of narrators including Hannah Chiclana, Chris Williams, Edward Black, Miranda Dyer, Amy L. Levin, Megan Wicks and Gabrielle Marquez, and like I say, I really enjoyed listening to those. I also picked up Rules of Engagement, which again was a 5-star read. I really, really enjoyed it, and this is by J.T. Geisinger, another sports romance. The hero in this one is a professional football player who is extremely grumpy. I think he's the grumpiest hero that I've ever read, and he needs to improve his image, and so he seeks out a wife at this sort of dating agency, and the lady who owns the dating agency is very exasperated with him because she's tried to set him up with a few very lovely women and he's been completely rude and obnoxious, and so she decides that she's going to kind of like, you know, coach him to be a better boyfriend and potential husband. And of course, during their kind of time together, they end up falling in love with each other, and I just really, really enjoyed the banter between them. And of course, J.T. Geisinger, as always, writes brilliant banter and chemistry between the couples, so really, really loved that. And then the last one I want to share is Inked in Lies by Gianna Darlian, which is book 5, I think, in the Fallen Men series. I do own a physical copy of that one as well, but I haven't read that book yet, but I really want to. But I thought I would download the audiobook from Kindle Unlimited because I had a credit spare, and I read After the Fall as an audiobook and really enjoyed it, so I thought I'd do the same for Inked in Lies. So there we go, that is my latest book haul, both in physical, ebook and audio formats. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me. Don't be shy and say hello by popping a comment in the comments box down below. And all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. J.T. Geisinger. So I also purchased 3 books in the all 3 books in the what am I thinking there? If my hand is here and the books are there, then on screen it's on the left. So if I've now done the... I did those pictures all wrong, didn't I, at the start, so I'm going to have to redo them at the end. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. Anyway, that's by the by. So this is a series of... Sam Mariano is... of our heroine in this one, Peyton, and she happened to be I think she's watching it's a film I don't like. What is it? It's Wizard of Oz. Yeah. Oh. Hello. Oh, it's not going to end well. Right.